Hey guys, Justin here with Just Tech. In the past, Google's always released one single Nexus phone, but that all changed with the Nexus 6P and the Nexus 5X. While I believe the Nexus 6P was the true flagship for Google, the Nexus 5X was not to be overlooked. It had an appealing design and was what many people called the spiritual successor to the Nexus 5. My review will be broken down into 4 parts: design and build, software, camera, and then finally battery. So let's get started. When I first saw the Nexus 5X, I can immediately tell which device it was really replacing. Not the gargantuan Nexus 6, but the very popular, much-loved Nexus 5. While not imitating the Nexus 5 design, the Nexus 5X managed to look new and refreshing. I was personally a much bigger fan of the Nexus 5X than the Nexus 6P when I first saw them announced. When you remove the Nexus 5X from the box, you'll absolutely notice its weight, or rather, its lack thereof. It comes in at a paltry 136 grams, and while the weight and materials don't exactly scream premium, it does feel extremely well built. However, I will say that when I handed the phone to my wife to get her opinion, one of her first responses had to do with the plastic build and how cheap it felt. You can pick up the Nexus 5X in 2 storage configurations and 3 different colors. 16GB for $349, 32GB for $299, and then it comes in carbon or black, quartz or white, ice, what I'm going to call seafoam green, not exactly mint. As for the rest of the phone's appearance, it's a standard black rectangle slab, with the only embellishment being the speaker grills on the top and the bottom. Although you'll find 2 speaker grills here like on the Nexus 6P, you won't be getting stereo sound like you did on the Nexus 6P. Something I expected given the lower price point, and what you still get is a single front-facing speaker as opposed to a bottom or side-facing one. Overall, I'd still say it's a win. Also on the front, you get a 5.2-inch 1080p LCD display with a PPI of 423. It's bright, crisp, and vibrant without being oversaturated, and while it's not OLED like the 6P, I'm still more than happy with the screen size and appearance. Between reading news, watching movies, and gaming, I still can't find a single fault with the display. Starting with the right side of the device, you'll find a power button towards the top and volume buttons around the middle. I have some reservations about the buttons, mostly because there's nothing about them to make them stand out, literally. There are no ridges on the power button like we've seen on Motorola devices, and almost no travel. You'll get a press every time, but you won't feel good about it. I can't believe that in 2016, a company can't get buttons right. It's one of the things that absolutely everyone will use on a phone on a daily basis, and rather than focusing on cramming RAM in or worrying about specs, I would love to just see all phones nail the things that may not seem like they matter much, but again, is something everyone will use. On the bottom of the 5X, you'll find a USB-C port. So as with the 6P and other devices like the OnePlus 2, you'll be looking at some new cable purchases if you need extras for travel or for your car. I won't knock any phone for having USB-C even this early in the game because it has to be done. Let's just get the pain over with as soon as possible so we can all move on to faster data transfers and the added flexibility that USB-C offers. Reversible plugs being the most welcome change. On the left side, you'll find your single SIM card tray with no slot for an SD card. Nexus phones haven't been known for offering expandable storage options, so no shocker here. Despite what some people say, 16GB in my opinion is more than serviceable with all the cloud storage options we have available. But if you can stand spending the extra $50, I would just go with the 32GB model. You'll thank yourself later. On the back, you'll find your Nexus Imprint fingerprint sensor. Unlocking your phone using Android Pay, this is what you'll use Nexus Imprint for. I found the experience to be identical to the 6P, which is to say it works great. Just as quick as Touch ID on the iPhone, and about just as accurate, I'd say. Kudos to Google for making sure the fingerprint sensor works and works well. As for internals, you'll find mostly mid to top end specs. A 64-bit 1.8 GHz Snapdragon 808 processor, Adreno 418 GPU, 2GB of RAM, and a 2700 mAh battery. As I said, I'm a big fan of the looks of the 5X. It feels great in the hand, it's lightweight, and just feels good to use. One final point about the design. Unlike the Nexus 6P, the headphone jack is on the bottom, which is the appropriate place for it. The top of the phone is the wrong place for it, and I'll tell you why. Without having conducted any sort of scientific poll, I believe that most people, if they're using pockets, will place the phone in top down with the screen towards their body. You're able to grab the phone and unlock it with your finger as you pull it out of your pocket, which is extremely convenient. If the headphone jack is on the bottom, it makes so that the cord comes right up out of your pocket. Placing the jack on the top means that either the cord is being wrapped around your phone and then being pushed against the bottom of your pocket and then extended back out, or you have to place it in your pocket backwards and change your whole muscle memory routine. So if you're a manufacturer, just place it on the bottom, and I guarantee you'll probably be making most of your clientele happy. Or you can just go Bluetooth and forget the cords altogether. Or if you're Apple, just get rid of the jack altogether. I won't spend too much time talking about the software here just because it's identical to the build that came with the 6P. I did an in-depth look at the new features Android Marshmallow has to offer, like Google Now on Tap and Doze in my 6P review, so I encourage you to check that out if you're interested. Just know that as with the 6P, you'll be getting a very smooth and fluid experience with Marshmallow on the 5X. While I wish the 5X came with a bit more RAM to make multitasking more usable, that's probably the biggest difference you might notice between the two. The OnePlus X, which comes in at about $100 cheaper, has 3GB of RAM, and I can certainly tell the difference between that device and the 5X. One other area that the 5X matches the 6P in is the camera, because they both have the same sensor, same camera. As with the software, I went more in depth in the 6P review, but I'll just say again that you'll be very happy with the camera on the 5X. As you can see from these sample shots, the detail is crisp without being over sharpened, and colors are about as accurate as you can get. One thing I didn't cover on the 6P review was a double press on the home button to launch the camera. It's not going to be as lightning quick as the feature is on Samsung's devices, but overall it's a nice feature to have. It'll help you snag that quick shot when you need to, and something I would like to see made standard on more devices. As for the battery on the Nexus 5X, you're getting a smaller 27 mAh battery. While it doesn't compare to the Nexus 6P's 3450 mAh battery, DOE's does come into play here. However, it doesn't come into play as much as I would have hoped it would. I haven't been really impressed with the battery life on the Nexus 5X. Standby time is great, but at the end of the day I did find myself running out of juice now and again. The one thing I will say is, despite the fact that it doesn't have wireless charging, it does have fast charging, which I definitely have used and definitely do appreciate. So if you couldn't already guess, with a lot of things so similar to the Nexus 6P, you can say that I do like the Nexus 5X. You miss out on things like metal and a better build quality, but at the end of the day, you still have a rock-solid feeling device. I have no hesitation recommending the 5X to somebody who's looking for a Nexus experience but isn't willing to shell out the dough for the 6P. Now I want to know what you guys think. Are you rocking the 5X? Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. As always, be sure to hit that like button if you're feeling generous, and subscribe to the channel to see more content just like this. I'll see you guys next time here on Just Tech.